it's not really that tight, is it? I mean, we know Skylar Woodward's already in, Shane Van Boening looking very good for the number 2 spot. But what a race you could have in your hands in Hanoi in a couple of weeks' time, because after that there are so many players within striking distance.
Yeah, absolutely. A few players making a little noise the last couple of weeks in some ranking events, and of course some players in really good form as well. That's always a positive note. It's not kind of like, for lack of a better term, stumbling across some kind of line. It's really a race for that 3rd, 4th, and 5th spot. And, Shane, if something happens this week to where he wasn't the 2nd spot, that would only be a blessing for Team USA, because you would have a player really climbing the charts with a great week here at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, anyone who's looking to overtake Van Boening for the 2nd automatic spot would need to reach at least the final.
Well, Shane, of course, one of those players that can smash him even though the cut break is in play. I talked to him a little bit after our first match, and just saw how he was doing, and if he got that week off, he was wanting to kind of reboot and get a little relaxed time. And he said, no, I decided to just stick with it and grind through it. He said, I feel great. He's really proud of himself, and he expects results with a few changes he's making health-wise, getting back in shape and doing a lot of running.
So Andrew Finnigan of Scotland really up against it today, facing 5-time winner of this title.
Yeah, and Scotland has been having so many more 9-ball events ever since that ranking event back in May, I believe it was, and seems like a country and has a big interest in 9-ball pool.
I know there are 1 or 2 Scots who won't like me saying this, but it's so cold there. You've got to be indoors for most of the year.
Yeah, and Shane kind of sizing up this first shot. Should be a safety coming. Kind of felt like he would go behind the 3, the red 3 and the brown 7 with the cue ball. Tyler Steyer did go ahead and beat another really good player from the New York area. I don't think he plays as much anymore, Frankie Hernandez. There's some concern here that I don't really see. Maybe chipping the 2, coming behind the 3. He'd like to hit it a little thicker and move it up table, that being the blue 2, but I think maybe the 8's in the way of that. We did have a long one in our last round, and David Alcady, who was our most recent winner of a big ranking event on the World 9-Ball Tour, that being the European Open. That just shows you about the sport, Michael, how just a month ago he took down one of the biggest titles of the tour, and now a month later struggling here in the first round of the U.S. Open.
Yeah, and equally so, I think that unpredictability underlined by the fact that he won that tournament at all, because going into that he wasn't exactly on a great run of form, but went there and found it and ended up beating Raga in the final.
All right, trying to get the 2 past the 6. It's going to drift a little near the 9. I think he got a partial eclipse here. Yeah, to be honest, and I said it over there that, I knew David had made the final 64 there in the European, but of course paying attention to so many matches and players that I didn't realize he had won his first 2 to get to that final 16, and then from there definitely kept an eye on David and watched him win that title in an epic final against Anton Raga.
Yeah, and again underlining where the game's at now. He had given himself a bit of a boost going into it by beating not a great field, but still it was a tournament of significance in Scotland actually just before the European Open. So I think that was the beginning of him coming out of that difficult run he'd had over the previous year or so.
Yeah, and for these top players, of course, some wins is great, but really when they start to really feel themselves hit the ball well, that's that's really where they start to get that confidence and start to shine between the ears. All right, little light. You have to have a rail after contact or pocket a ball of some sort, or else you give up ball in hand.
Yeah, a little bit of a gift for Finnigan, and of course this is really what he would have been hoping for right at the start of the match. To be let in with a chance to win the opening rack.
Well, his cueing looked pretty nice. I hadn't got to really see him attack yet, but okay, he's going to get over the 9 a little bit. A little bit of an error there. Gotta believe probably started in snooker or English 8-ball. That would be the guess.
I think a lot of the pool players you see from Scotland, it was a snooker background. The game's so big there on the back of superstars like Stephen Hendry and John Higgins. And really, you look at his technique, it looks like someone who started out playing snooker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason Shaw, of course, the best of all the Scottish players. He came from a snooker background originally.
Okay, first long distance shot.
Well, that's not encouraging, whatever the cue sport you're playing.
No, a little body movement with the stroke. So, I talked to a lot of, the top players in the event, and definitely the Americans, and many of them, even early, even as a favorite, have started off a little nervous. It's the U.S. Open, so a guy like Finnigan, of course, probably his first U.S. Open. I couldn't tell you for sure, but probably plenty of nerves going, of course, playing arguably the greatest player that's ever lived.
I think he may have played one before. I think he played last year, and something in my head saying he played Corteza.
Another player that seems in form every time he comes across to the United States is Lee Van Corteza at a nice event in Connecticut last week. All right, is he going to draw a pass, or is he just going to settle? Smart shot. Maybe he could have used an inch back just to make the 7 a little more comfortable. Shouldn't be a problem. Go ahead and get that nice second bounce off the right side rail.
Yeah, just as he called it. And of course, disappointing for Finnigan to pass up the opportunity to win the first rack, but also the shot that he played there sends the message to Van Boening that Finnigan perhaps not quite comfortable yet. In this instance, the American legend has capitalised to the full, and he leads Andrew Finnigan 1-0 on day one of the US Open here in Atlantic City. Long Duk Tien still on the hill, 8-1 against Masuo Komada of Japan. Ko Pin-Yi also looking for one more, 8-3. He leads against Sean C. Morgan. And Wen Kong Tan, the other player who I was telling you is on the hill, he's still there too. 8-1 over Darren Emery. Jose Alberto Delgado of Spain, 6-1 up against Steve Kotuba. Abdullah Al Yusuf has a 6-2 lead over Deepinder Singh, and Alexa Pei-Shelge has won the first couple of racks against Barry West of the United States. So there's some of the other scores. Back here the score is 1-0.
Yeah, there's a couple really strong young junior players playing in this round, and some what could be a couple incredible matches. Trenton White is playing, and Sergio Rivas as well. I think Rivas is playing Marco Tucher, and Trenton White is playing Silva, I believe. I think both those matches were somewhat close.
Yeah, Trenton White, who did so well in the junior event last year. That'll be coming up again later in the week, SVB Junior Open.
Yeah, and he's got a big upside, that Trenton White does. I'll tell you, he's already a really good player at a very young age, and I think he's going to do nothing but improve and improve. Shane trying to get a little feel for the table. Didn't get the best out of that blue 2, trying to get it underneath the 7 and 8.
Just speaking of someone like Trenton White, and I'm not suggesting he's in this bracket, but again, I'm sure we'll refer to the Ryder Cup a lot this week because it's on, and also because we've got the Mosconi coming up. Now, as you'll know as well as anyone, the European captain Luke Donald has taken a big chance, really, throwing in Ludwig Aberg, who's only played a handful of professional events. Would you be prepared to do something like that if there was someone you saw who emerged on the American scene who clearly looked like he had an absolutely phenomenal talent? Would you be willing to throw him into a Mosconi team and take a chance on him?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I think in Luke Donald's situation, maybe a little bit of what to choose from it, you know, in a sense. I like that Aberg's game myself, but I've watched him quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, I've said it all the time, and it's the same. I think pool more than golf, but they're similar, meaning when you're at that late teens, early 20s age, you just never know when someone's going to turn that corner. And sometimes it's not easy to recognize. And I think we're seeing that now with Moritz Neuhausen a little bit. I think we're seeing that with a few players around that age. And I think you have to be willing to do that if the case is right as a captain.
He did take a bit of a chance, of course, with Chris Robinson, who later became Chris Reinhold, and although he didn't end up on a winning team, he performed as well as anyone, really, when you brought him in for the first time. As well as anyone on the American side that week.
Yeah, and, you know, he got a lot better the next year as well. So, but yeah, I mean, you know, if someone's mentality's there, they're eager, a little fearless. Of course, the Mosconi is an animal that seems like it comes from another planet. But, ooh, that ball may have kind of drifted a hair. So you saw Shane take a long look at that 8 down the rail.
And with that, Shane Van Boening already leads Andrew Finnigan 2-0. And this is what happens, isn't it? When you're in the situation like Finnigan, when you're a massive outsider in the match, you get an early chance, you've got to make the most of it. Because if you don't, you can find yourself paying a very heavy price. Van Boening building on winning the first rack by taking the second in emphatic style. Anton Raga, runner-up in the European Open last month, now leading Nelson Bueno 6-0. Mark Boisterbosch, who so nearly won the Spanish Open earlier in the summer, level at 2-all with Murat Raishawi.
Yeah, you can tell, and out on at the Q-Tech booth here, a bunch of vendors set up. You could tell, I could tell anyways, all business for SVB this week, not taking a shot off, and he's got to make sure not to put too much pressure on himself. You know, it's easy to get a little aggravation if there's a lot of pressure, and he wants that 6th green jacket. Well, smash the one in the side. The 2's going to open up. Well, I thought it was, but the brown 7 got right in the way.
Yeah, he is here, chasing history once again. It was 2016 when Van Boening won this US Open for the 5th time to tie Earl Strickland's record. He's still looking for the win that would see him claim the record on his own. Have to say, it hasn't been played every year since then. There was a change to a different date in the calendar, so we missed out a year, and then obviously COVID caused us to miss a year as well. But he's had a few chances and hasn't really got that close yet to that elusive 6th.
Well, it seems like every tournament he's playing just as well as ever. I mean, just seems like when it gets down to that final 16, just he's had some odd matches get away. You know, maybe a mistake or two that he'd certainly like to have back, but what I've seen overall, day in, day out, he's still playing as well as anyone on the planet. All right, difficult kind of situation here, even though he can cue it decently. Like, where is he going to go with the cue ball here? I just don't see it. Yeah, this is going to lay up over the corner. And again with the 3 over the other corner. I think that was maybe a push out I may have passed on. No, Nice shot from 90 feet away, rolling the ball. It's always a little nervy. And all in the open now to get that 3-0 lead. Oh, this one may go a little much. Wow, didn't expect that.
Yeah, he had a lot of margin of error there and just massively overhit it.
Yeah, I wonder if he's looking to pocket this. Try and play a little bit of a two-way by the 6. Maybe off the 6, off the rail off the 6 with the bank. See, watch it. Oh, he's trying to catch that 6 as it went by.
Winner of this will face in the next round the winner of the match currently going on table 13, Johnny Moody Sr., leading Joseph Selekia 4-1 in an All-American clash.
Moody Sr., huh? Do I know that name? I think I could be wrong. It's going to foul, catch the green 6 first, but I think that's the same bloodline, and you would know who I'm talking about as Charles Moody, the golfer, right? He was a great player, played on the seniors. Now he's probably, I don't even know if he's still alive, but I think it's the same family.
Do you mean Orville Moody?
I think that's the same family as well. They played, okay. Yeah, Charles Moody. He played senior tour probably the 90s, something like that. Was a PGA Tour player. I met his grandson or great-grandson in Vegas, and I saw him here. I think that's maybe his father that's playing, the grandson or great-grandson.
Well, Shane Van Boening could get a bit moody if he keeps making mistakes like this. That's 2 huge errors, really, he's made in the last few shots.
Yeah, and both of them he kind of got down a little quicker on the ball, maybe taking it a hair for granted. Not like him. Yeah, and you can tell there, and you'll see it with this vantage point we have, that when nerves are going, we all kind of get a little more tension on the back of the cue, and I think that Finnigan has a little tension back there anyways, but maybe squeezing it a little hard with that right hand. Nice shot there.
Trying to pull off one of the biggest upsets in the tournament's history here. But I guess the thinking is just get a rack on the board and try to build from there, really. You see so often these matches just get away from the underdog, but Andrew Finnigan was really gifted a chance there. Looked like he was going 3-0 down, and this time he took his opportunity. So Van Boning's lead trimmed to 2-1, and Finnigan looks keen to get on with the next one. We see a lot of these matches in the first round of these big field events where it's a superstar of the game against a much lesser known name, and then even by as early as the second round it's a lot more a case of established players playing against each other. Well, here's a match we can put in that category. Tyler Steyer is going to be playing Long Duk Tien, who's just closed it out at 9-1 against Mitsuo Kamada. And looking at some of the other scores, Ko Pin Yi has won 9-3 over Sean Morgan. Will now play Saeem Hossain in the next round. And another match that's just finished. Nguyen Cong Tan of Vietnam has beaten Darren Emery 9-2. Goes through to play a very likeable Austrian Max Lechner, who of course got to the final here last year.
Yeah, and it seems like just since the announcement of the Hanoi Open just months ago, it seems like there's more Vietnamese players out and about. It's a scary proposition for the rest of the players of Vietnam. They really caught up quickly, seems like.
Yeah, and it's one of those countries you don't actually hear a huge amount about in terms of international sporting success, but it's a massive place. It's about 100 million people. I think it's one of the 15 most populated countries in the world. Hanoi city itself is growing in population at an extraordinary rate. And I know the success that the Vietnamese players have started to have in terms of some of the results they've been getting. over the last 12 months or so has really registered in a very big way over there.
Yeah, a friend of mine from back home that goes there here and there, and said there's a couple of 100 table pool rooms there that on a daily have a waiting list to get a table, with 100 tables in the establishment. So that tells you something about how popular the game is and how populated the city.
Well, you look at another country of similar size that you don't hear a great deal about in terms of international sporting success, the Philippines, and once the game got going there, it's just grown and grown and grown, and it's as big there as it is anywhere on earth. Maybe Vietnam could be the next to follow in that path, and we can't wait to get there in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, touchy little shot here, holding position on the pink and to get to the green 6 always was going to be a problem. That other 5-time winner, Earl Strickland, in the building.
Yeah, remarkable to think Strickland won it 5 times, but never successfully defended it. They were all so spread out. Won it in 3 different decades. Van Boening, of course, looking to do the same.
I wonder the first year that Earl played. I'm not so sure he played in the inaugural U.S. Open, even though I believe he started playing professionally right then in the late 70s. So, all right, Shane down on it, taking dead aim. Doesn't want to get queuing over the 8. It should be okay.
What is he now? I think he's 62 maybe? So he would have had to be
62 or 3, yeah.
Would have had to be 15 to play in the inaugural staging. Might have been a bit too early for him.
But I mean, at 18 or 19, he was really considered one of the best 9-ball players in the world at 18 or 19 back then. So,
when we were commentating together on the main table earlier today, we saw John Webber, who just didn't have any opportunity in the early racks against Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, and by the time he did get involved in the match, he was too far behind to have any realistic chance. It hasn't been the same here for Andrew Finnigan. He's had opportunities, did manage to take his chance to win the previous rack, but not so there, and so Van Boening is too clear once again at 3-1. So let's look again at some scores. Sullivan Clark has just won 9-5 against Jarrett Vibert of Canada. Another Vietnamese player, Nguyen Hoang Pong, in a real battle with Vitaly Patsura of Ukraine. That one is 6-all.
yeah, Patsura's been doing a little bit of what Federer did a year ago, really going around America, playing in all the regional kind of events, getting a lot of match time in, playing great.
Sergio Rivas, who you mentioned there, is playing Marco Teucher, and it's Teucher leading 6-4 at the moment. Dutch player who recently won a ranking event in Adelaide. And they're into the action now in round 2. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, defending champion, who we saw on the main table earlier, 2-1 up against Max Watanabe. Shane Van Boening, 3-1 up here.
Cue ball got in the air a little bit there. Shouldn't be too much of a concern, but not something you see a whole lot. Even breaking the balls with as much speed as SVB does. Yeah, there's just a little off with the cue ball. I mean, a lot of people would say it's not that bad, but Shane kind of carries himself critiques himself at a high kind of rate, right? So wanting to get the snooker behind the 8. And we had a few really nice matches in the opening round. Some quality ones, but not too many. But round 2 will certainly give us plenty of action.
Just seeing Van Boening dropping his chalk on the table there reminds me of something that I saw when I was walking around the arena earlier today and came upon Joshua Filler during his match against Pier Francesco Garzia of Italy. He was sitting on the floor under the table holding his phone. I was thinking, what on earth is going on here? So it turned out Garzia had dropped his chalk and it had actually gone down the pocket and into the workings of the table, and they were trying to figure out a way of spotting it and getting it back out again. The match was delayed for about 10 minutes. In the end, they just left it there, and Josh actually gave him a spare piece of chalk, which is probably what they should have done to start with.
Yeah, there's certain tables, and you can get inside of them pretty easily. No telling how many pieces of chalk and whatnot are inside my table at home. But all right, a little bit of a tester coming off the end rail here.
Seemed to be a bit of body movement again there.
Yeah, and that was at a very light speed. So just imagine when he kind of amps up the stroke a little bit, probably even more movement. Tell you what, Robbie Capito's got his hands full here on table number 2. It should be a heck of a match.
Yeah, Capito 2-1 up on Nguyen Tan. The Vietnamese player at the table with a chance to level.
Don't think this squeezes by. Most likely we play some type of pretty mild safety behind the red 3, maybe using the 9. Thing is, here he knows the speed looks like the 2 may roam near the pocket, even though it's a kick shot. You know, like here, this isn't that bad of a kick. And oh, he cut him off with the 9 as well. Pretty crafty there. Cut off the rails pretty well. You know, we always talk about the greatest ever when it comes to SVB, and to me, I don't know. I think I'm more convinced that he is probably the greatest ever tournament when it comes to tournament play, and he's not disregarded very bad in the green room as well. But I think the only thing that really makes you think otherwise is if you were lucky enough to ever get to see Efren play so much. You know, if you're one of those players that got to play him and see him play all these matches and the crazy things he did under the pressure. I think if it wasn't for that, it'd be a no-brainer in my mind that Shane is the greatest that's ever lived.
Well, Finnigan knew in that previous shot that unless he got it right, Van Boening was probably going to have a really good chance for 4-1. That's the way it's playing out here, but let's not mark it down just yet. We've seen a couple of uncharacteristic errors already from the American.
Yeah, this 4 doesn't pass the 8. He was trying to fall in a combination possibly, but I don't know if he really likes this. This has got to be hit with a little speed. That way the 4 will come off the rail once it contacts the 8. I think he plays the safety here, really. He played the combo, and this is what I was talking about, the speed. Cue ball coming down the table.
I think that's a thing that maybe people don't realise if they've never played on these tables, is how unbelievably fast they are. And I actually had a knock on one of these tables earlier today, and you barely have to touch the ball to get movement out of it. And I think if you've never played on one of these tables, you don't realise just how much of a factor that is, gauging the speed and getting it under control.
Yeah, and it's such a delicate sport in that regard. A lot of players, when they get on a foreign equipment, they start to try and control it a little bit, and then you start to miss balls because you're worried about the speed and the line of the cue ball. And so you got to give it a conscious note, but you really got to get, hopefully, to as natural state as you can.
And with that, Shane Van Boening has capitalised on the chance he was given. So for the first time in the match, he leads by 3. It's now 4-1. Francisco Sanchez Ruiz, the defending champion, in the second round, 3-1 up on Max Watanabe. Carlo Biado winner the year before, level at 2-all against the American Nathan Wallace. And Winan Tan didn't capitalise on his chance to level at 2-all with Robbie Capito, also in the second round. So the Hong Kong player is now leading 3-1. And an all-Greek clash going on. Nick Malai and Alex Kazakis. Malai has won the opener there. Marco Teucher now 7-4 up on Sergio Rivas. That's in round 1. Oscar Dominguez, who was in the last Mosconi Cup team, 3-2 up against Brian Vu.
Yeah, Shane not really getting anything offensive off the break, or at least not a whole lot in this match. And Shane, you know, he's very cut and dry on stuff like that. You know, even though it's the cut break and, you know, balls are being racked randomly, of course, besides the 1 and 9. He really looks at it like, what do I need to do different to get a shot? You know, even though it's the first round, you know, he really presses in that kind of sense, but I think he'll figure it out just fine and probably end up not worrying about it too much. Yeah, lots of round 2 matches have begun.
Yeah, the schedule's been thrown a bit in a number of ways today. Obviously, the last match on this table was so long, so we're a bit behind here. And also, there was that delay at the start of play this morning when we had the electrical issue. I think we would have been expected to be pretty much finished today's first round action by now, but still a bit to go.
That's amazing. You know, we're in this venue the last 3 years. Of course, we're upstairs this year like we were in the first year, but I know a lot of setup kind of people. That's what they do for a living, whether it be concerts or different venues and whatnot. And no matter if you go to the same place or not, it's still always touchy. And that's why those people, they're so good at their job, covering all the bases. Couldn't really do a whole lot there. Just kind of a soft safety, chopping the 2, running the cue ball. And I would think that Finnigan would bank the 2 back down the middle, go by the 8, trying to use the pink 4 as a big blocker. Oh, he's going to play it on the light side. That's a hard one to command. Did pretty well, though. Certainly didn't sell out a shot, so just shaving the top side of the 2 here. Coming 2 rails at this, or 1 rail? 1 rail. And that door is open. The 3 does play on the side after the blue 2's knocked in. But the ball's in the open. Should extend the lead. Is he looking? Maybe he doesn't have much angle here to move the cue ball. Not sure it's necessary, though. You can see him cueing up on the cue ball, so, and it looks really tricky. I think he does have a little bit of an angle, but it sends the cue ball right towards the green 6. So you can see the 3 a little covered up by the 9. May have to kind of just draw this and kind of pound it to get some angle. He's going to look, does the 3 play in the side from where he's at? I think it does. I think he can hold there and be okay. cheated the pocket, played the 2 to the right side, trying to hold the cue ball as much as possible.
As far as the Matchroom events are concerned, it hasn't been Van Boning's best year or anything like it. He was looking really good in defence of his world title earlier in the year and then lost in the last 16 to Duong Kwok Wang. Quite a poor Premier League. Finished 8th in the field of 16 there. Early enough defeats at the UK Open and the Spanish Open. Went out in the last 16 of the World Cup of Pool, along with Skylar Woodward, beaten by Japan. Did have a good run though at the European Open, beaten in the semis there by David O'Cady. So that is best showing in a Matchroom event this year. And he's had some good results in events here in the States. Final of the Derby City Classic earlier in the year. Also won a ranking event in the States around the time of his 40th birthday. And did well in the event in Connecticut last week as well. So he's been getting results, just not perhaps in the Matchroom events to the extent that we might have expected. But he's going along very nicely here. That's 3 in a row now for Shane Van Boening. He leads Andrew Finnigan 5-1. Kang Lee, who was part of the South Korea team that played against the US at the World Cup of Pool, leads Britain's Sam Story 5-2. Oscar Dominguez now has a 4-2 lead over Brian Vu in an All-American clash. Their first round matches. And in the second round, Francisco Sanchez Ruiz could end up having a very short day's work. I think it took him just under an hour to win his first match earlier today, and he's raced into a 4-1 lead this afternoon over Max Watanabe. Winner of that will play Mickey Kraus or Emil Andre Gangflow, and it's Kraus leading that all-Scandinavian clash 1-0 at the moment. Robbie Capito 4-1 up on Winan Tan. Carlo Beato just ahead of Nathan Wallace at 3-2. All those matches in the second round, as indeed is Omar Al-Shaheen leading Danny Mills 2-0. Van Boening firmly in command here.
Yeah, he's finally going to come away with a shot after the break. Nothing easy. Near the rail with a cue ball. Not a ton of angle, but enough to move it. So Shane gets up for the big shots. So when doubt he knocks this in. I'll tell you, Mickey Kraus to me is a hard one to peg, Michael. I mean, I see all the talent in the world, and I see a lot of drive. I know he wants it. Just hasn't gotten quite the results I expect. And I'm not saying he's going to get them all the time. He's still a youngster coming up. But, man, he's a talented player. And he really makes most all the events as well.
Yeah, there are a few players like that who I feel we've been waiting for about 2 or 3 years now to see the big tournament, the big breakthrough from them. Capito, who we have been keeping an eye on the other main table, he falls into that category as well.
Yeah, I think Capito's maybe one we talk about more in that setting than maybe any other player. And it's almost like with all those guys, we know it's going to happen. We're just, expecting it, every time we see him, I guess. When it hasn't happened. Okay, Shane calling down for the 7 in the upper corner. Watch this side rail. Of course, these tables first day, they got to settle in. He's going to hit it with enough speed where we don't see it, but I kind of feel like right there by the pocket, that ball rolls a hair towards the inner part of the table, the side he missed it on, to be fair. And of course, the technicians here and everyone, they take a look at it every day to make sure everything's in as good a position as it can be.
Well, this looks like a much more straightforward chance than the one that he took to win Iraq earlier. But just as I say that, well, has he just about got away with it?
Yeah, I think it's makeable. It's just going to be a little questionable with the cueing. Make sure he doesn't double hit the cue ball. A little shake of the head, so maybe not so friendly.
Looks okay there from that angle.
Yeah, it's just if he's pointed towards the low rail, maybe he has a problem reaching this. A few ways to shoot it when you're close to it that you can kind of manufacture the angle you want or the line you want on the object ball. So he likes his chances of making it. Oh, barely missed.
Yeah, I mean, he really shouldn't have been in that position in the first place.
Yeah, and you can tell the nerves are going. Underhit a few, maybe overhit that 7. That's why he lost the line on the cue ball. But
well, that could really knock the stuffing out of him. Had a chance there to get it back to 5-2, which is reasonably respectable. Instead of which, made a bit of a mess of getting on the 8, ended up missing it. And 2 balls later, Shane Van Boening has won the rack, and he now leads 6-1. Well, that's going to be very hard for him to forget about. Danny Mills, not to be confused with the former England footballer who played in a World Cup quarter-final against Brazil many years ago. He's closed to 2-1 down against Omar Al-Shaheen in the second round.
Danny or Donnie? Donnie.
Oh, it's Donnie.
Yeah,
sorry,
Donnie.
yeah.
Yeah, former runner-up in this event, I believe. Finished second one year in this event. Great player from Florida.
Sorry, yeah. The eyes are starting to go on me, Jeremy.
I got a spare set for you in the glasses. So don't worry about that.
Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz, 5-1 up against Max Watanabe. 1-1 now between Emil-Andre Gangflo and Mickey Kraus. Conrad Yusashin, 3-0 up against Vincent Beaurivage. These are all round 2 matches. Dang Tan Kien of Vietnam has won the first couple of racks against the Estonian Dennis Graba. And the old Greek clash between Nick Malai and Alex Kazakis, that one is 1-1.
That's the speed I think he's going to end up going with. Not everything he has, but that one looks very repeatable to me. That tempo of the swing, and ball's open nicely. Now the 1 did miss, so that's an adjustment he'll try to make, but definitely wanting to pocket that 1 on the side. It's coming 2 rails. Got just enough angle to slide over, I believe, for the 4. 4 doesn't pass the green 6. So he wants to stay off the rail here and don't fall straight with the purple 5 up table. Great stroke there. And you can handle straight as long as you're off the rail.
Just one more result to give you from the first round. Marco Teucher pulled away in the latter stages to see off Sergio Rivas by 9 racks to 4. Teucher will now play the British player Elliot Sanderson, who we also saw at the World Cup, in the next round.
All right, a couple ways to play it here. Just come to the center, taking a little angle. That's kind of what I like. Yeah, just in that position there. You can come 1 rail, 2 rails straight at the 7. Most would prefer.
How quickly things happen. It's probably only about 4 or 5 minutes ago that Finnigan looked for all the world like he was going to get back to 5-2. And here he is now. Just a couple of racks away from defeat here, because Shane Van Boening has now stretched his lead to 7-1. Emil-Andre Gangflo now leading Mickey Kraus 2-1. Winner of that looks like playing Francisco Sanchez-Ruiz in round 3. FSR leading Max Watanabe 6-1. Carlo Beato looks to be involved in a very lengthy 6th rack against the American player Nathan Wallace. Beato leading 3-2. That's been the score for a while now.
Yeah, that Omar Al-Shaheen match. I mean, I know Donnie, he's not going to come here without practicing and putting in some training, just know his type. But, you know, Donnie was playing pretty full time. I mean, that's not much more than a dead heat kind of match, believe it or not. Maybe Omar's a little favorite, but not a big one. Tells you how good Donnie Mills plays. Yeah, that's that speed I was talking about. Pretty identical to the last. And looking to continue on his breaking runs.
Yeah, what a treat this has turned out. A long time ago since he won his first US Open. He was only 24. all the way back in 2007. Won 3 in a row at one stage. A total of 5, as we were saying. Shares the record with Earl Strickland.
And Earl, who has mad respect for this man at the table, vice versa. Shane kind of grew up with Earl as one of his heroes, maybe his main hero, to be fair. Okay, maybe check the cue ball a little more than he wanted. Maybe carrying a little more angle on the 6, but 7 with some options shouldn't be a problem.
Every time he comes to the US Open, until the next time he wins it, if indeed he does win it again, Shane Van Boening is going to come here amid the questions about will this be the time that he breaks the record. And players often get asked, do you care about records? And some say, oh, I don't really pay any attention to that. But of course they all do, because why would you be out here playing if you didn't want to do things like that?
No, I mean, the 6th one to him is a big motivation in his career period, and keeps him practicing, and he'll think about that as much as he does anything else through the year.
Yeah, and he's never pretended otherwise.
No, he doesn't. Ooh.
Wow.
I didn't expect that. It's just going to get Finnigan back on the board and breaking.
Well, he looked nervous earlier in the match at times. Right here, he looks a little bit embarrassed by how easy an opportunity's been handed there. And just as we're talking about Shane Van Boening making history and being one of the all-time greats, plays a shot that even I'd be disgusted to play.
Yeah, I didn't expect him to hit it that easy. I don't know if that had a little something to do with the miss. Maybe let up on it a little, but we're going to get to see more from Finnigan to break the balls here in rack number 10.
It's looking like he can't quite believe it. And in another way, Van Boening's the same. You know him so well, Jeremy. He always strikes me as someone who will seethe about it for a moment and then just forget about it.
Yeah, for the most part, I think he's gotten so much better at that. It used to be, when he was playing another great player, he would really kind of beat himself up a little bit over a big mistake, and kind of at times would feel like, oh, I gave the match away right there, even though he was still fighting to win. Now it doesn't seem like such a hang-up, to leave a mistake behind, and just kind of understand that's going to happen every now and again, even if you're one of the greatest of all times. Pretty nice break off. Got one down. Has a reasonable shot at the 1. 2-7 combination. Laying next. So big 1 ball here for Finnigan. See if he can get a little something going.
The likes of Van Boening come to an event like the US Open looking for the title, and in his case, the all-time record. The likes of Finnigan maybe come here with a bit more of a feeling of trying to create some memories. And you have to feel every rack that he can win is another memory in itself. Looked a bit embarrassed about the way he won the previous rack. This one might be a bit more on his own merits, but he hasn't helped his cause with that shot, JJ.
No, and made a nice shot. It's just always going to take a little gamble with the cue ball there rolling towards the green 6. Really kind of a short delivery, though, overall, and I think it's a little shorter because of the circumstances and where we're at, and, maybe the entire setting. You can see back with the cue about an inch, and of course he was jacked up over a ball there, but even when he's open and clean bridging, still not the biggest of backswings.
one record he is going to claim a share of later this year is Mosconi Cups played in. He's played in 16 in a row. Johnny Archer and also Ralph Souquet, if you want to include the Europeans, have both played in 17. So he'll match that this year. It's not officially confirmed he's going to be on the team, but I think that's the safest bet of the year.
What do you need? I have a stamp in my back pocket. You need it right now? I got a good feeling SVB will be on that team.
Already holds the record for the most actual matches played in Mosconi Cups, if you know what I mean, in terms of all the matches added up over all the years he's played in it.
I think it was during last year's he played his 100th match.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was maybe 4 short of it going into that.
Yeah. You know, for many years people, you know, wondered about some of his play, but that just shows you right there, you know, how much that America tried to lean on him, and as they should. And, you know, when that's the case, sometimes it's an odd kind of pressure. I think his Mosconi days have been really good of late and going to continue to stay that way.
So it looked like he was heading for the hill in the previous rack. Had an astonishing miss when he got his chance there. He took it very swiftly, and so Shane Van Boening is now 1 rack away from a place in the next round. It's 8-2. It's going to be a fairly swift turnaround to get the next match on, which will be Corey Jewell against Ko Ping Chung. And Jeremy and I will talk you through a bit of Robbie Capito against Wenan Tan for a few minutes while we're waiting for that one to start. Steve Schlanger and Carl Boys will then take over for the next match here on the main table. Now you can see some of the scores going through. So hard to follow everything, isn't it? These first couple of days, so many players to look out for. And of course, with so many more big events now, we have more big name recognisable players in these fields. Kang Lee, 7-2 up now on Sam Story in round 1. And I'm not sure drawing my attention to there. Dennis Grabber. Yeah, 3-0 down.
And I'm not familiar with that Vietnamese player, I don't think, anyways.
Dang Tan Kien, yeah, I think we've seen him in a couple of the other events this year, but that would be a really good win if he could finish that out. But a long way to go in that one. Not so here. Van Boening will be hoping, because he only needs 1 more, but he's come up dry there.
Yeah, caught the one a little thick. Pushed it. You could kind of see the one bend a little towards that bottom point, and it was just narrowly missed.
Dennis Grabber has actually got one back now against Dang Tan Kien. That one's 3-1. Carlo Beato looks to have won a very long 6th rack. Either way, whether it was long or not, it seems to have been, because it seemed to be 3-2 for some time. It's now 4-2 against Nathan Wallace.
A nice opening 1 ball there by Andrew, and got to pay attention here on this too, not to catch much of the 7 if he catches it at all. A lot of work though from the 3 to the pink 4. That's just below where he's standing to get back up for the purple 5. So hopefully it looks like he's getting a little more comfortable. Of course, it's probably a little late. You never know. I'd like to see some of those skills. He'll have to play another one today, right?
Yeah, he'll go to the loser side. He'll play the loser of that match between Johnny Moody Sr. and Joseph Selekia. Looks like being Selekia at the moment. He's 7-3 down. When I was talking earlier about players coming here looking to make memories, I didn't mean in a tourist sense, just come and enjoy Atlantic City. I mean memories in terms of trying to get a win under their belt, and if you can't do that against a player like Van Boening, every rack enhances how you'll look back on the experience. He's got a chance here to win his 3rd.
Just caught it a little, I think, thick to the pocket is what it looked like. Nice draw stroke on the cue ball. Well, actually shot it to the outer point a little and trying to get a lot into the cue ball. Now Shane's going to come down the left side of the table. He's got to hope he doesn't fall straight near the rail. That tends to happen a lot. Got off a little bit, has enough angle. Got to power up here though to get back for the 6.
Well, Andrew Finnigan had the chances to maybe have made this a bit closer. think it was always unlikely he was going to threaten to win the match, but he's had chances. Did manage to win a couple of racks. And Boening has made quite a few very unexpected errors in the course of the contest, but at other times he's looked very fluent. And in the end, much as we expected, it's going to be a pretty straightforward win. A long, long road ahead of Shane van Boening, if this is to be the week where he claims that record-breaking 6th US Open title. But he's off to a winning start. He's beaten Andrew Finnigan of Britain by 9 racks to 2. So that's all over. We will now move next door. Robbie Capito leading Wenan Tan 6-1. I'm going to pick that up in just a moment. Talk you through that for a bit before they get the next match onto the main table. Bit of ground